So, welcome back to another Friday edition, or Thursday edition, actually, of the Theatres of Dreams Extra Time. You've got the regulars, the reliable ones, I think they call them. Don Bars from Bars Tars and myself, Rod Maxwell. We're missing the Scotia one. He's busy, and to be fair to him, he's very good at prioritising Dom, isn't he?
He is. He likes to think his kids come first. So obviously he doesn't value football as much as we do.
He makes me look bad, actually, I have to say, Dom.
Well, I'm sure was it. I can't remember who it was. Was it Shankly? Isn't it more? What's more important than anything? It's football, isn't it? I mean, forget the kids. I love my kids, but you know, my child is not Erling Haaland.
Well, there you go. Anyway, he's very good, a very good man, and he prioritizes very well. But I'm very glad to have you here. We're going to talk we've got a lot to talk about this weekend. Of course, is the Manchester Derby. We've also had the EFL this week as well, and the FA Cup at the weekend. Where do you want to start?
Oh, well, I think we should start probably from last weekend before we lose any more
Oof,
memory. So
must
we've
we?
got, yeah, the FA Cup really. The magic question mark of the FA Cup. Did we get any? We got some.
I'm trying to. Well, I mean, we obviously went out against Brighton Hove Albion, and I'm trying to forget that game an awful lot. It was Fletcher was in the dugout. Wasn't that right? He was, wasn't he?
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was.
Look,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was an odd game. I mean, really, it goes back to the game on Saturday, which was what the FA Cup's about, which is Macclesfield Crystal Palace. We've got to start with that. The
That's
greatest ever shock statistically in FA Cup history. Didn't realise that until after the game.
and against the holders as well, of
Well,
course.
what is the chances of that? Crystal Palace have. I mean, this is football. Why we love it. The madness of upsets. They had never won a tournament. Get to the final last year, and deservedly so. Beat City in the final, which was one of the shocks of all time. I mean, I was there. They thoroughly deserved something out of it. And then, literally, the first round, as defending holders of the cup, they go to Macclesfield away and get turned over. I mean, they're the lowest non-league team to ever beat a Premiership team, aren't they? It's unbelievable, unbelievable what they've done there.
One of the players is a teacher at the local primary school here.
Yeah,
And he came to school the other day to an absolute hero's welcome. So he did.
I saw that on some socials. Yeah, I mean, so they should as well. There was a guy with a bandaged up head. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. Apologies to him, but he was absolutely magnificent. I mean, he made 1,000 tackles. Honestly, it was deserved. I mean, remember it wasn't like they hung on. They were 2-0 up, and Palace only scored very late on to make it 2-1. And it's
Yeah, yeah.
Rooney's brother, isn't it, that who was managing the team. So it was a real big occasion, and the Crystal Palace fans were clapping the Macclesfield fans on the pitch. It was all taken in the right way. I mean, Palace are a good club. Let's be truthful. They took it on the chin well. Yeah, just that's what the cup's about. Sutton United beating, who was it? Tottenham Hotspur years ago, and Wrexham beating Arsenal years ago. I mean, it's been such a long time since there's been a proper upset of that
Upset.
magnitude. I mean, little old Mansfield, got a great result at Sheffield United away. Granted, Sheffield United are struggling, but still a great result in a Yorkshire derby.
It was
Um,
that the teacher was called Sam Heathcote, and
that's him.
he is the son of former Altrincham Football Club captain and manager Graham Heathcote.
There you go. Keep it local. But no, just brilliant. That Macclesfield story. Remember, they went bump. There was the Robbie Savage thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Smethurst took it over. Who, funnily enough, my daughter knows his kids from school from years ago in Cheshire. So I remember him buying that in 2020 and taking it on as a project. And look what he's done. Brilliant.
So,
Brilliant
so
story.
just remind me because I actually foolishly thought that the likes of Robbie was still involved in Macclesfield. They sold it. Is that what happened?
No, no, no. He's been there and he's done it. I've forgotten where he went. Didn't he go to Forest Green Rovers or something as a manager? But he did brilliant. He got there when they were at the lowest ebb in non-league, was director of football, became manager for a bit. But I think why he left, if I'm honest, I'm not off the top of my head knowledgeable enough to know why. But you would assume he'd got other things to do, didn't really want to pursue maybe that sort of career, and was getting a lot of flack every time he went to
Mm.
an away ground.
Yeah.
If you watch any of the documentaries, Robbie Savage does get unnecessary flack, but it's just his character. But
Mm.
they were gone. It was Bury all over again. It's now it was Macclesfield came back as a slightly different name. I believe that they got bought off right move. If I've got that right, I think that was what he said in his interview. He actually bought the
Oh,
club off right move, got it going again. There's been a load of documentaries on the telly about it. They've had a few quid to do something with it, and but they've done it. They've gone up the leagues, and look, it's just a brilliant story. But that's why we like the FA Cup, isn't it? We upsets
it's
doesn't happen a lot in other countries.
no, it doesn't. I was going to say it's a unique competition, and it went through a period there where it was claimed some of the teams were taking it seriously. You had the whole situation with United and a buy in it because of being
Yeah,
out in South America, which I think actually the FA should have taken more responsibility for that because they wanted us out there promoting British football or English football, and they allowed that to happen. I think the club took a lot of flack for that, but there's something about the FA Cup. You always look for those fixtures, don't you? And that weekend, that is it, the third round. It's the third round, isn't it? It's always the
mm,
weekend when the bigger teams join the pot. And what is it? We like an upset. We like the underdog story, don't we?
yeah. I suppose it depends as well. I mean, the people who younger listeners will find it odd me saying this. I'm a City fan, so I'm used to being an underdog. Um, yeah, and as a kid, that was what it was all about. And even now, there was a bit of me that quite liked Crystal Palace beating us last year. If you're going to lose to anybody,
Aye.
don't lose to Arsenal or Liverpool or United. If City get beat, like when Wigan did us in 13, I was going around McDonald's afterwards congratulating the Wigan fans because it's a once in a lifetime stuff that we all bottle and remember as memories of football. So I think you do want it shared around a bit. I mean, look, there was some one-sided results last week as well, but that's sometimes the way the draws go.
Mm.
The little clubs, what do they want? They want a home tie, or do they want commercially the away tie? So Macclesfield Macclesfield got the plaudits for their result, but you wonder whether Exeter made more money playing at City and getting done 10-1. Do you know?
And that is actually one of the important things about the FA Cup and the draw is you can draw a city, you can share that revenue. That sets the club up for a long time, actually.
Yeah, there's been a bit of noise around the City one, if you've listened to that as well. That Exeter publicly were requesting that City or asked City for more of a contribution. I think they made a bit of a mistake there. I think they should have kept that off the public forum and they should have just gone and quietly had a word with the City hierarchy to ask for a bit of a favour. I'm sure they would have got one.
Yeah,
But to do it publicly, I don't think City's that type of club. I don't think any football club that's monumentally richer than a lower league team wouldn't want to help out. But to be asked publicly is not a great look. So,
no, not the
you
way to
know,
handle it.
I mean, I was there, they brought a great turnout, about something like about 7,000, 8,000 of them. Remember, the home gates are only six. So they brought more than they do to a normal game. I think Exeter was empty as a town. And yeah, it was brilliant. They made the effort. Bit of a shame they didn't really have more to sing about. They actually had a chance at 0-0. Great header, which was saved brilliantly, and then they scored an absolute worldie at 9-0. But they just got done over by City on that day. It
The-
reminded me. It was bizarre. It was exactly the same result as Huddersfield Town. I think it's the biggest ever um, gap difference, whatever the phrases you want to use. 10-1 is the highest score.
is it
Uh,
really?
yeah, and City had it in 87, November 87 against Huddersfield Town. I was there. That's how old I am. I was just 15, and so I waited until the end because people were wanting to leave around me, including one of the guys I went with. They said, "Oh, 82 minutes, it's done. Let's beat the traffic." I went, "We're going nowhere." I said, "If it takes us a long time to get home tonight, I don't care. There's a chance here that we might score 10. Never take that for granted in any level of football. These are the things that go into the history records, and you want to say you were there and you
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah.
Don't leave the ground early when something might happen."
I'm looking here at the old result on Friday night, which was really good, was Wrexham winning on pens against Forest. Now, Wrexham's rise has been unbelievable because not so long ago they were playing in the conference. They're now playing Division One
Championship.
Championship. They are, yeah, and that win against Notts Forest is no fluke actually because they've been doing very very well. But it's a big scalp, isn't it?
Yeah, look, the gap between it used to be that the old second division, I would want to call it the championship now, if they got a game against a premiership team, it could be quite even. Whereas in recent years, the gap's been a bit too big, really, mainly. It's not very, very rarely is there an upset. And that's a great result for Wrexham because Forest are, I know they're struggling in the league, but still a good
Big
side.
club, yeah, yeah.
Still a good side with some great players there. So no, Wrexham's journey is obviously well documented again, a bit like Macclesfield. We're just talking about the clubs with all the documentaries here. Um,
Yeah.
but they have got a load of money, but you don't go through that team. And let's be truthful, we don't know those names as a
No,
non-Wrexham fan. One or
no.
two, there's one or two, but they've done brilliant. And again, that's what you want is some of the Premiership teams getting knocked out.
And the other thing, the FA Cup can go against you as well, Dom. And what I think about it is Tottenham losing at home to Villa. That will not have helped their momentum or their positivity, if you like.
No, no. I mean, they got Villa, so let's be truthful. That on paper is not a shock. It just is. It's just a more pressure on Tottenham as a club and the manager. That's what it is,
Exactly.
more pressure. But on paper, you look at that and go, well, why wouldn't Villa win? Villa are
No, no.
absolutely flying. But you're looking for a feel good factor in the cup when you get knocked out early. I mean, we have to talk about United. I'm sorry to do it, but
Oh,
you really needed a result there for the feel good factor. Whereas now, the first thing that got announced afterwards on media, and I didn't know this is now the least amount of games that Man United will play in a season since 1917, I think it was, or something crazy.
it's something like that. We've got less to play for now. Yeah, it's the number of games. To be honest, I'm because of my memory, the game, it takes me a while to warm up and remember the game. But the fact that Welbeck got the winner for them and he looked, he looked immense, he looked like a proper striker there. Shea Lacey going off in 89, that was really unfortunate. I just don't think we were at the races at all. To be honest, I'm struggling to remember the game. Even though I was there, obviously. But
It was, yeah, look, it was. I mean, we played Brighton, got a draw in the week. Um, I watched the game, and obviously, as a City fan, I was looking for an away win, but I couldn't believe how open you were in the midfield. And I know you're missing a few lads, and Bremer's missing, and all of that, but there's enough quality out there, right? Brighton are no mugs, but my goodness, if Brighton had just actually played the right ball in the final third many times, you could have got really embarrassed, really embarrassed. But look, it was deathly quiet apparently straight after the game because it was just the sense of wow, you're out of both cup competitions in the first round, and I mean, look, to say you got nothing to play for, I think is slightly harsh because
oh, absolutely.
there's United have still got Europe to chase, and is it a big ask? Yes, but they have got something to play for, let alone their own careers. But as a cup winning stuff, again, I think sometimes it's nonsense. Were you really going to win a cup this year, really, or a trophy? If you can get into the top 4, 5, 6, that's progress, isn't it, from last season?
Well, I think I said on Wednesday's podcast that this result for me was on the players. that they needed to pick themselves up. And you look at the starting lineup; it wasn't a bad starting lineup. We are light in a way, and but we are missing the two guys from the African Cup of Nations, which only two players, but we are missing them. But we just didn't look we just didn't look at it, and it's I, it just was really disappointing. And I didn't see I wasn't critical of Fletcher or anything else. It was, for me, it was about the players wanting it and the players being hungry enough and the players dragging themselves through the game. And I might be completely wrong in that. It could be something else that's much more tactical and wasn't spotted. But they matched us like for like in terms of formation as well, and we just weren't at it really.
We've had this conversation before, though, that when you're up against a really big team, you're defending like Trojans and hanging on in there and then breaking with quality, you do okay. And when you play a team that you've got to come out a little bit, you get picked. If they could have picked you off so much easier. And actually, the best positive element was the little cameo from the young kid who came on, Lacey,
Shea
right?
Lucy.
Because he looked like he had the bit between his teeth, and he was the only outlet ball, more than Kuna. Sorry, he was, but
Yes.
then he gets himself sent off, and he's apologised. And should he have done it? Of course, he shouldn't. But also, I do think the referee could have just give him a come on. He could have had a word with him, couldn't he?
Well, I mean, there's the spirit and there's the letter, and you sort of think, why, within the context of it, you would think so. But when we had plenty of times, we had 19 shots, right? We had more shots on target than them. We had more shots. We're just not ruthless enough. We're just not at it at all. And then the fact that Shea Lacey comes on, and what he did really done was he played without constraint. He
Yeah.
played with a freedom. And he just took the ball and he ran and he was making opportunities. And I've criticized this team enough really, but there doesn't seem to be much man management on the pitch at the time, and there's no leadership either. I'm sick and tired of seeing them concede a goal and then traipsing back to their positions for kick-off again. You don't see anybody grabbing them or shouting at them on the pitch. Not the manager, just themselves, leaders in the team, and that team with you look at that team. You got Cunha in there, you got Fernandez, you got Mount, Sesko, Ugarte, Menu. That team should be able to put up more of a fight against Brighton Hove Albion. No harm to them, but they were well organised. And Welbeck. It was somewhat ironic to see Welbeck and his big frame and powerfulness, do well against us yet again. But
He's had a great career, that lad. Great career. I'm not saying he should have stayed at United, because I think he would always have been a bit part player. But what a career he's had. He moved to Arsenal.
Absolutely.
Moved to Arsenal at the time for what, 16, 17 million, I think it was. Which was a reasonable amount of money back then.
Wasn't bad.
But what is he now, like mid-30s, and
I think he's 33.
he's still in the top 10 goal scoring charts. He regularly scores. He comes across as a nice character. He got a good applause from the fans when he
Did.
came off. Hey, do you know what? He's just one of those likable. I mean, it's very rare to have a likable United player, But I think he's a good lad. I think he's a good lad.
He's a good athlete as well, and he's quite skillful on the ball for a big guy, But he's looked after himself really, really well. But anyway, I mean, for us now, the circus continues. I'm pleased that it wasn't Ollie that got the interim job. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and in a World Cup year, who they go after. I mean, I'm just on the United thing. I'm hearing more and more people turn around and say they want oh goodness, the Italian coach, what's his name? Coached at Everton and was at
Ancelotti.
Ancelotti. Yeah, 63. He's 63.
So he's got the shoulders to. We mentioned this last week, actually, and he has the obviously experience. He is royalty of a manager, and he handled Real Madrid, so he can handle United. That
Yeah.
those two clubs are really difficult to manage, and Fergie had the shoulders. It's not just being a good coach; it's having the mentality and the strength to be able to just hold the whole jigsaw puzzle together. So I think Ancelotti would be a good move. But is it? Look, I think United have probably done the right thing. Caretaker it now. Don't panic and go and get Maresca because he's available, or on the phone to Javi Alonso the day after he's got the push at Real Madrid. Not saying that neither of them might not be the right manager, but don't just jump. If they're going to get it right, if ever, then they need to give themselves. Michael Carrick's done a good job at clubs like Middlesbrough and stuff like that, so he'll hold it together, and then just try and see who's available. And I really do think if I was the United board, I'd be going for Ancelotti. I would be.
I I think it would be a good shout actually, and it wouldn't. You're not talking long term, but at
No,
63, 64, he's still got 6 years at least in him. And he looks a lot older than he is. He's one of those characters, maybe because he's been around a long time, whatever. And what I like about him is that I think he's got the gravitas and the experience and a certain calmness but steeliness that he won't take crap from people. So I gotta say I think it's a good shout. And I think what I find interesting about this, Dom, is that when you're recruiting somebody for any company you work for, you always write down some criteria around what you want, right? And football's one of those things that people just bound names around, and you turn around and say, well, actually, what's the first thing you're looking, what are you looking for before you come up with a name? Because it's almost like the same names all the time. What is it that you need, and how much is it about technique and experience and skill as a football coach, and how much is it about gravitas and your reputation and your knowledge of the league and and people management and stuff like that. And I find it interesting. People use the names without actually thinking what does the role actually need.
well, yeah, you got to match. You got to match it. I mean, we can talk about there's probably at least half a dozen managers in the Premiership who are coaches as the next wave coming forward, right? Areola at Bournemouth, the lad at Sunderland. There's a variety of them, right? Uh, but does that mean that they can walk into the United job? We talked again about this last week, and we were talking about the Newcastle manager having the experience to handle a big club with expectancy. So that still stands. But nobody's bigger than Ancelotti when it comes to managing world class egos. I mean, he's had Ronaldo at his pomp and all that Real Madrid dominance of handling real strong personalities. Now you look at somebody like, interestingly, you talk about Xabi Alonso and go, wow, he'd be fantastic at United. Did you see the way he was treated on after they got beaten in the Super Cup last week by what's he called, Mbappe? Right? Sorry, the disrespect was ridiculous, and he went the next day. So something's triggered that at that moment. They've lost a Super Cup final with a deflected goal 3-2 to Barcelona. The second in the league, granted the trailing, but that all came from a tiff on the side of player power.
Yes, and
And it's
there's a club that's dominated by player power, isn't it? You can't be a whimsical manager. You have to have some steel. Now, Alvaro Arbeloa, I don't know this guy, but he used to play in the Prem. Is that right?
Yeah, he was Liverpool's left right back squad player. Part of their team in the late teens.
I
Um,
can't remember him.
yeah, he was okay, but he's gone there as a caretaker manager, and he's gone. And his first thing that's happened is he's got knocked out in the cup, whatever it is, the Spanish Cup by
Second division
Albacete.
club. Yeah.
Like that is the shock of all shocks. Granted, they've rested players, but who cares? Albacete shouldn't be getting a result there.
Uh,
So
I,
they've put
I,
themselves under pressure. But again, if
I think it's nailed on, Dom. That Klopp will go there. I think it's nailed on.
it's wild, isn't it? You know, he retired. He didn't really want to manage. If there's one team that's going to get you back,
It's
if you want,
Madrid.
in it, it is. If you're going to have
It
a
is.
challenge now,
Yeah.
whether culturally, Klopp's going to get what he wants, you know, to be allowed to manage and do his thing, which he's done brilliantly at Borussia and Liverpool. Will he be allowed to do it again there and change the whole focus and style and energy? That's, I don't know. He's got the shoulders for it though. Again,
He has, and if there's going to be one job that would tease you
it's
back
that.
in, I happen to think that this there's maybe it's me, but I happen to think that there's been an element to which his game plan all along has been to almost take a sabbatical, right? Go off and see something else in football in this directorship role that he's doing, right? Waiting for the right job to come up. And I think if they put that in front of him, whether they do or not, it would be interesting. But if they did, I think he would absolutely accept it, you know?
Well, Richard wouldn't appreciate me saying this, but it's an upgrade, isn't it? It's an upgrade from Liverpool, and that's not detracting from Liverpool, but it's always an upgrade for Real Madrid.
It's an upgrade on most teams in the world, though,
I
isn't
know.
it?
I think every team. I think it's every team.
But
If you,
we've touched on this, but what is it? Is it their football history, or is it even more than that? Dom, what do you think?
yeah, it's the history which has created this brand. It's the brand, and
Mm.
I mean, let's be honest. If you were to describe, if you put Real Madrid's badge and kit, and somebody came off, you know, from another planet, and you went, right, we've got a job for you. You're going to go to this club where it's full of players who are full of ego, won't listen to anybody, won't do as they're told. You've got a chairman who interferes, and if you lose a few games, you'll get the sack. And the fans are crazy and won't accept a draw. Would you fancy the job? Yeah,
Mm.
you'd go, well, no, thank you. But you do because it's the brand and identity of. It's supposed to be somebody like, I don't know, always wanted to work in a business making running shoes, and Nike come knocking. You know,
Oh,
it's that for me. It's the brand, and that brand has come from the historic history. Well, the historic history, same thing. The historic nature of the club, which you could argue gives it an unfair advantage, and always has done, because they won the first five ever European Cups. So they invented the blinking thing. So it's a bit like, you know, it's Johnny's ball, it's his goalpost, and he's going to have first pick of the players, and we'll have a tournament. It was a bit, and they've got that history of being the most dominant team in Europe or the world, really. But there are times when they're not the best, but the aura and clamour to want to play for them means that they get all these great players on free transfers, and it's just a real weird bespoke club in the world.
but you know, the thing about that club, and I've written here, did Player Power get Alonso sacked? And I think ultimately it did, right? Because they've got massive personalities and egos, and they always have had. You know, when you go back to their Galactico type of recruitment strategy, yeah, you know, you were dealing with some of the biggest egos and the biggest characters in football. The one thing, if whoever goes in is either going to have to just accept that and get on with it or take it on. And the one thing I believe is Klopp won't accept it. He'll take it on. And that'll be an interesting battle. If they go for a manager whose profile is very prominent, then that profile is going to clash with that idea of sort of player power, the Galacticos of Madrid, and that'll be an interesting battle.
Well, there's obviously strong egos. Even Bellingham has that, you know, the body language and everything. Probably misinterpreted sometimes, but that's part of playing for them. But I have a real, not issue, or maybe I do, maybe I just dislike the man. I don't like Mbappe at all. I think
Oh
he,
no, there's
I
something
think
about that player.
he stinks. He stinks, right? You think what was going on at PSG when he was there? It was problems, sacking after sacking, never achieve what they should have achieved. I've seen him play many a time. The guy, I've absolutely no issue with his ability. He's absolutely extraordinary. But my goodness, he plays it in himself too many times. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's scored hat tricks in World Cup finals that he didn't win. Um, and there's times when he can bring it to the party and he's got trophies where he says, well, I have been successful. He could have been more successful if he'd have had the right attitude, in my opinion. And he's left PSG. Look at PSG now. They went and won the European Cup without him. I know he's won stuff at Madrid, of course he has, but I think at times maybe me and you could win stuff at Madrid, Rod. Right? So I just think he for me smells like he causes a lot of the problems, and Klopp might even have him out if he either plays
But
ball or he's out.
well, here's the thing you think about is he's only 27, right? And he's still got a lot of football ahead of him. And actually, the right manager might manage to get Mbappe playing at the level that his talent deserves, and maybe that his head thinks he's already playing at, but in some ways that there's a player who could do with a coach that really shapes him because he's got too much football in him left to play. But I felt for a while like Mbappe's stars drifting. It's almost like he's in his 30s already because he isn't. I don't know. He's a great talent, but I almost feel like his profile's waning a bit. Maybe I'm completely wrong there.
I agree. He could have been an R9. He could have been up there. He really could have been up there with the Ronaldos and maybe the Messi right category. And he will be down as a great, but I don't think he'll end up with a statue in the
Mm.
same way that other players would be remembered in 20, 30 years. He'll just be, oh, yeah, he's good. But instead of, he'll end up, I don't mean this disrespectfully to Benzema, but he'll end up as a Benzema level, in my opinion,
I,
when he could have been a Platini, you
but
know?
there again could be, I wonder whether coaches these days look at that situation and think, I can really make him. I can do something with him. Now, the alternative that to that might be, I don't trust these players to actually commit to me if I do that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to commit to the player. I commit to the club, but I'm not going to try to, commit to a player. But there is a player who needs a coach that really brings the best out of him, and they work together, not against each other.
I agree. Again, in modern football, if you look at the teams that are the most successful, it's the culture of team effort on and off the ball. That's what ultimately trumps the skill levels of individuality and brilliance, which is what Mbappe has. Because the PSG team, they run, all the little ball players running everywhere. City have done it for ages. Liverpool have done it with incredible energy and work rate. Arsenal right now, whether you like the football or not, there's an incredible appetite off the ball and togetherness. And you never feel that an Mbappe team has that off the ball effort and togetherness. And I do think he's the consistent problem in it. But he could be sensational. Could be. I'd
Let,
rather have
let,
Bernardo Silva. I'd rather have Bernardo Silva than Mbappe all
as
day
he
long.
is now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But it's yeah, he's the sort of player you, if your kid came and said, I want to put a number in the back of my shirt, you sort of don't want him to have him. It's a weird one. Let's go back to the league because let's talk
Yeah.
about Villa for a minute because we've kicked ourselves recently by saying we're not talking enough about Villa. And if you look at the league, it's really quite interesting. Apart from goal difference, they are with you on number of wins, draws, and losses 13, 4, and 4. You've scored obviously a lot more goals, and they've conceded more. And it's actually you've scored 12 more goals than they have, and they've conceded 5 more than you. But in some ways, you would turn around and say there's not much splitting the two teams in terms of points. You're both on 43 points. But I think we've been possibly guilty of not talking enough about them and talking up their season. But we have said in the past that they are a giant of a club that's been dormant for too long, and suddenly it's coming together. What do you think of Villa at the moment?
I know. I think they're great. They're great to watch as well. There's always a team, isn't there? Nearly every season, who breaks the top four and freshens it up. They don't necessarily always stay there until and get the Champions League place that the season might deserve. We've seen it with Forest, Newcastle being the most obvious ones I can think of straight away. But I think he's got some great players. I think the manager's fantastic. I think this is where it gets stuck, though, is that you're right, all those stats you just gave, they're their level going toe-to-toe with City. And now they're talking about trying to get, Tommy Abraham, the ex-Chelsea centre-forward. Yeah, they're trying to get him back in. They've let the other centre-forward, looks like he's going to Roma. Is it Marlin? So they've got some great players. And on their day, they're a great side and they've had a brilliant run. But then City, and other clubs can do this, but City obviously go and then buy Semenyo. Right, so they double down and they double down and go again, and
he scores as well the other night, didn't he?
Well, he's got 2-2. Granted, it was Exeter and Newcastle was good. I mean, he should have had another goal with the VAR decision. We can talk about that in a second, which was a joke in the EFL. But the difference there is Semenyo comes in. We're trying to get Gay because we've got a defensive issue. But actually, the lads that have come in have done brilliant there. So ultimately, it's about depth. Can Villa kick on beyond where they are? The romanticism of football says, wouldn't it be great? The reality is no. Because City can spend 100 million. Arsenal can spend 100 million. Villa can't. And they've got what they've done with their budget, with their man management skills and their player identification is fantastic. But if they were to stay anywhere in that top four and have a cup run, I think they could really well in the FA Cup, couldn't they? Because it can beat anybody on the day. They've already shown that. They beat City and Arsenal this season already. Probably Liverpool, I think, as well. They can beat anyone. And they've had a brilliant league run. But I think they'll stay where they are because I think the ones below them have just not quite got there. The new Chelsea manager's in. Is he going to give them a bit of impetus? Is Liverpool going to get any better? But really, I think it's Villa's there to command third spot, and anything above that would be a bonus.
Well, the Express are reporting today, Samuel Mead in the Express reporting, and this is as of 2:10, so an hour ago, that they're close to landing Tammy Abraham. And they will sell. Who is it they're going to sell in return to balance the books? They're set to let somebody go to Roma, Malin, and also suggest that Evan Gusent could be transferred to from the Middles club to Nice for 30 million. So Tammy Abraham would be a good addition to him. I can see him linking very well.
Yeah, no, it's good. But again, that's what you've just said there. The mix they've had to go and get Tammy Abraham for X, sell a couple of others for Y, and City just buy Semenyo for 65 million. There's the difference. Because our squad isn't big enough at the moment. Yes. But the difference between being a top 4 team and a top 2 team is monumental. It's monumental. To get that top 2 position, you've got to be some side in this country. City any other season could be winning this title, but Arsenal are still hot favourites because of their quality. So we'll see. Europe's going to get interesting. We're going to go deep in that tournament in this country between some of the teams. I feel we could end up with some all English quarters or semis. I think we could go quite deep collectively in that tournament. City, Arsenal, Liverpool, maybe, and Villa. Why not?
Sorry, Dom, I lost you there. You were saying we could go what?
I said the English teams could go quite deep in that tournament, in Champions League because they've got such calibre. But I do think that, you look at the Semenyo edition at City and I don't think they've finished yet. I mean, we needed him. It's interesting. He's sort of moving into the EFL stuff in the week. He has The difference he's added that I've noticed is he comes into the box. He doesn't stay on the edge of the box. He almost plays as a winger, a bit like Sterling did for City, so impactively. But he likes to ghost in and gamble. So it means it's not just Haaland. That's what I noticed in the Newcastle game. But there was a point where there was him and Doku
I
on the
mean,
wing.
do you find one of the frustrations I've had with United this season is I felt that we never have enough people in the box. And we don't see anybody gambling and busting the gut to get in the box at times. It's almost like they don't expect anything to happen, and therefore they hang back. But United of old would have always had a couple of options in the box, whether it be somebody to cross to or somebody advancing to the box and having somebody to play off. We don't have that, and as we haven't had that for a while. But I do wonder whether that is a facet of modern football today with the different formations.
I think it is. I think it is. I mean, City, for all of that brilliant Haaland centre forward work, there's many a time where you feel like you want him to gamble a bit more, but he gambles probably the most. But everyone's got to hold up play and get involved in little triangles back, and sometimes just get it in the box with a bit more intent and probability. How's Sesko? I mean, Sesko got a couple of good goals against Burnley the other week.
Mm.
They were tidy finishes, but you got to feed him. I mean, he come offside, he's raw, but he'd have a better chance if he hit the ball. You've got it to him faster. Kevin De Bruyne made a career of being a midfield great by taking crosses early, didn't he?
And that's the one thing I liked when Shea Lacey came on the other day was that
Straight in the
he
box.
was exactly and look, it's not to say you should just rely on that sort of wing type play, but it's another part of your game, and we've I think we've missed it quite a lot, and I don't know why we've lost it, but anyway, look, let's before we talk about the Mank Derby, let's just mention VAR because
Mm.
what was the game you were talking about where you thought they got it all wrong?
So I'm not being a salty blue here. It was nearly every football fan I've listened to since the game, including Newcastle fans. Cannot understand why that goal was not allowed. So it was the Semenyo second goal where they've decided, after a crazy amount of time in the VAR studio, 6 minutes or something,
He was offside.
I mean, to say it was forensic
Oh,
is
I know.
and all the camera was doing. This way it got really embarrassing. The camera was just watching the two guys with the TV screens in the studio, to me, panicking, looking and going, can you see anything? Can you see anything? At what point do those lads go, well, no, not really. So therefore, it's called a goal. It was almost like they got told, I'm sure they weren't, but it's almost like they're trained and conditioned to go, we're going to send it to VAR. Please try and find something so it's not a goal. He wasn't interfering. It was at most the length of his ponytail. I mean,
Oh.
honestly, I can't even see it. All I can
It
see is
was
that
it was
it
a
was
gnat's
nothing.
breath. I know, and you sort of think it's not even if you sort of say give the attacking team the advantage, you weren't really talking about much at all, you know.
It was a very poor decision. It took too long, and the fact that I listened to this yesterday that they took that long doing it. They told the referee to go over to the monitor to have a look as well, which was going to happen. And we were just hoping that the referee would see sense and go, I've had a look, there's not enough there, it's inconclusive, the goal stands. He didn't look, he looked at the maximum 30 seconds. So they spent ages looking at it, but no, he's decided in 30 seconds to change his mind. Honestly, it was just a farcical process. And then bizarrely, there was a goal last night scored by Ben White for Arsenal against Chelsea. Pretty similar, right? Really, with Gyökeres by the defender, I can't remember who it was. Really, really similar. Nothing was said. Rightly so,
Yeah.
by the way. Rightly so. So it's back to inconsistency. Is VAR working? I would argue that I definitely want to see obvious errors corrected.
So
But
what's this Wenger rule I'm hearing, offside law, where he's basically saying there has to be clear daylight.
yeah, so he's raised this before a few times, but it comes up again because of situations like this. So the media bring it back up. I'm not sure there's any actual concrete evidence that they're now deciding to take this seriously. But I thoroughly agree with it, which is basically that instead of the magic line, this foot being slightly over, the whole body can be over as long as you've not broke the line where there's clear daylight between you and the defender.
So if you've got a limb that's still onside, but your body is offside, as long because there's no clear daylight, you are onside basically.
Yeah, because I think he used to say, and I agree with this, that a defender stands one way and leans that way. The centre forward is that way and leans that way. So just naturally, they're not in two parallel lines. They're like that, right? So
Yeah.
the idea is just because your chest's in front, you're not really offside. Offside was designed to avoid goal hanging, as we called it as kids.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it was for,
Yes.
right? And actually, we might get more goals as well. So that's not bad for the game, is it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's. I think Arsene Wenger is. I think he's spot on. I'd love to see that. So that a forward, if he's bursting forward, gets a goal, and as long as he's not goal hanging, i.e., he's way ahead of the player with
Yeah.
daylight, but we're pulling it up for the shape of the body and the angle that you're at, and that to me is not what offside was designed for back in the whenever it was, 100 years or so ago.
So, so Wenger, as I understand, is still chief of global football development at FIFA. He was appointed that in 2019 after he stood down from Arsenal. If anybody has got the ability to do something like this and have the credibility to push it through, it would be him, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'd be great, wouldn't it be great if he was heavily involved in running FIFA or something? My goodness, you might actually have someone who's
It,
got a little bit of integrity. But
it would
um,
be fresh, wouldn't it?
yeah, whatever you think of Arsenal and your dislikes of your competition, him as a manager and a person has been brilliant for world football. So I think he talks a load of sense, and it would avoid examples like this. But actually, that one was just particularly poor. And I think the fundamental issue just on that, Rod, is that referees are abdicating, and lines people, assistant refs, are abdicating decision making because they can be making more decisions and being lazy because they'll let VAR try and sort it out after. And then there's some poor bloke in the studio who's probably not qualified enough, to be truthful, who's got the TV remote control and is playing rewind. It just makes a mockery of it, particularly if
Yeah,
you're in the
no.
crowd. If you're in the crowd, it's even worse. On the
Oh,
telly, I was frustrated, but when
yeah,
you're there,
it's the fact you can't really celebrate a goal, because you do the instant reaction, then you look, and the moment's gone, really.
I agree.
Anyway, Arsene Wenger could leave a lasting legacy, couldn't he? Well beyond his time at Arsenal if he got that fixed. Let's turn to the derby because all eyes will be on that. Well, all eyes, some eyes will be on it on Saturday, and it's at Old Trafford, 12:30 kickoff. Will you be there, or you haven't got a ticket, have you?
No, it's away. I went for the ballot, but didn't get any. Unfortunately, my media career has not taken off enough yet to enable me to get any freebies. But if anyone's listening to this of our 14 followers, and they've got a ticket or they're friends with Roy Keane, please let me know. But
That's
no,
that's
I'm not going.
14. That's 14,000 followers or 14 million. No, I tell you, it's these two teams have met 197 times, right? Which actually, in some ways, you sort of think that's not really that often. United winning 80, City winning 82 or 62, sorry, and the 55 being a draw. Now, recent stats have been somewhat different, obviously, but it's they first did this back in 1881. It's mad, isn't it, when you think about that? I mean, there's so many clubs and so many leagues don't have that sense of history. And it's big, but here's this. Is it a big game for you as City fans, or is there other clubs that are bigger games for you?
No, it's big. It's always going to be big because this is our historic mentality. Don't forget when we were terrible. I mean, if you ask my dad, right, he's 76 now. He'll still say, "Well, we lost, but at least United did." He still has more. I'm more apathetic about it now, which is the worst thing. If I'm not bothered about United, that's the biggest insult. Like there was a time when United weren't bothered about City. That is the biggest insult, right? And but my dad's taught us as kids, indoctrinated really in the cult that anybody but United. It was ABUs, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we used to do. We were terrible, losing to somebody like Mansfield away, probably in the league. Um, but as long as United got a daft draw, a West Ham away or something, you'd be happy. It was madness. So the derby does. I know there's this Man United Liverpool thing. When it comes to competition, there's more of a recent rivalry with us and Liverpool. And Arsenal, but that's about actual winning things.
Rather than
Yeah,
history.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what that is. There's points where Liverpool and Chelsea were going toe to toe. It was only because we were both good at the same time, not because there's any linkage with the two clubs really.
Mm.
But no, for me, the first derby I look for is that this is the derby, and then I look at the Liverpool game and then the Arsenal game. But this one, don't get me wrong, on paper, like your team's in disarray. You're getting a draw at Burnley. You've lost to Brighton in the cup. What happened at Wolves? Did you draw with Wolves?
Can't remember actually.
You drew, you did. You drew with Wolves.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's poor, and I laugh about it. Yet,
Thanks.
and you've got,
Thanks.
and you've got this temporary manager, and you've got Harry Maguire probably going to be up front, but I am nervous. I am nervous because it's the derby, and actually, if you look at your run rate in the last 10, it's pretty good.
It is pretty good, actually. It's. I think your run rate is you're one game unbeaten since 2025. Before that, we actually had the longest unbeaten run between 1990 and 2001. 16 games on
I remember him.
unbeaten.
It was embarrassing.
But it's well, what's interesting is there's been some big score lines in the derby over the time. I mean, back in 1926, you'll remember this. City won 6-1, and then you beat us in 55 5-0, and then 94 we beat you 5-0 at home. I remember that one, and then you beat us 6-1 at Old Trafford in 2011, and then there was a 6-3 in 2022. You beat us 6-3 at your place. I mean, it's a high scoring derby, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, there was you did a smash and grab on us at our place with Ahmad, 2 goals a couple of seasons
Oh,
ago,
that's
and
right. Yes.
did we beat you three? Have we beat you 3-0 last year? Can't remember now. Listen,
Uh,
it's never, ever, ever a formality, and never should it be, because that's what makes it fun. And you just know that your guys will be up for it. Another manager. It's us 12:30 at lunchtime. If ever there's a banana skin for us, it's this, right? On paper, you look and go, surely City are going to just demolish you. But form does, it's the classic corny line,
it's
but
out the
form
window.
does go out the window.
What?
I've been to some great, some of my best ever derby was 5-1 in '89. That was my first one I went to in '89 with, the famous one when Fergie just joined. I was
Uh-huh.
obviously, I didn't go to the 6-1 away, but that was on my birthday in the year we won the league
In
when
2011.
Balotelli, yeah, it was on the 23rd of October. I remember it, watching it at home, thinking, what the hell have I just seen? Um, I remember the 5-0 when you beat us 5-0, and you beat us 3-0 at home that season. I lived in Preston then. We
In
got done 8-0.
94.
94, we got done 8-0 on aggregate. We were terrible. But that was when you dominated football. And then
Mm.
I went to the 6-3, which is the only time we've had two hat tricks in the same game, Haaland and Foden. There's a
Ooh,
stat for you.
that's a great start.
Um, so, but even so, you've got a bag of half decent results against us
Yeah.
in the last few years.
Yeah, but do you know the thing about this is, I, I like the fact that Foden cares about it. He's a local lad and all of that. But when you look at some of the players that we've got, I wonder, is there anything that would ignite a fire under them at the moment? Because that in itself can matter. I mean, that's why Harry Maguire at the moment is so popular, because when he steps out on the pitch, he looks like he cares. And it's a bit sad, really, that you're cheering Harry Maguire at his stage in life just because he cares. But actually, that matters. So I think the game is huge for us on Saturday, because what we need to see is 11 players who actually really want to win, really care, and dig in. And that's a big ask to have somebody turn that around in like 5 days.
But it's a free hit though, isn't it? And that's why I think
It's
you're
a free hit.
dangerous. That's why I think you're dangerous. It's a free hit. You went to Liverpool with a free hit. You were terrible. You went to Liverpool and you come away with a result, a proper
Yeah,
result. So
yeah.
if you have a low block against, I feel like I'm a United fan here, but if you had a low block against us, we're a bit slow, bit lethargic, not quite at it. You put any of them new centre backs of ours under a bit of pressure. By I must stress, they've been excellent the last week. I mean, we've had Kushnoff and the new lad Max Elaine. I want to talk about. I just need to drop on him. Wow. Now, don't get me wrong. His first game was Brighton away. Then he played against Exeter. 2 weeks ago, he was on loan at Watford. Less than 2 weeks ago, he's turned up because everyone's injured. He's never kicked. He's never played a game for us first team. His debut is against Brighton. Granted, it was 1-1, but that wasn't his fault. He had a very good game. Then he goes and plays against Exeter and was fantastic and scored a goal. And then he was absolutely magnificent away at Newcastle, Eamon Kushnoff. So can you put those lads under pressure? And it's going to be one of them where United need 3 shots, 2 goals. But it can happen. It can,
Okay.
it can happen, but that's where you've got to go in. This is my blue tinted upbringing. You've got to go in as an eternal optimist. Otherwise, what's the point in supporting your team? But City are hot favourites on paper. We will be trying. But my goodness, honestly, I would just be relieved to win. If it's a cricket score and we embarrass you, brilliant. But
Oof.
we need the points and we need the bragging
You
rights.
do you do need the points, and it could be Arsenal's day, couldn't it? But yeah, it's do you know, maybe this is one of the good things from our season at the moment, is you just don't know what United team's going to turn up. You go to Old Trafford, and I sometimes don't know what to expect anymore. And it's a bit like putting your hand into a box of Quality Street and not knowing what color you're going to pull out. Um,
If you, listen, if you'll be loud. We've got to handle the first 20 minutes. If we handle it and say if we get ahead 2-0, say in the first
yeah,
half an
yeah,
hour,
yeah, yeah.
right, then it's going to get toxic.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it
But
could do.
you
It
don't
could
know.
do. Well, look, we will know by just after 2 o'clock on Saturday. I am looking forward to it. I mean, Christ, I don't know if I should say it because it's been such a difficult season, but it'll be interesting to see how he sets them up. I'm going to be interested in the body language on the sides as well. What Carrick's like, because Carrick's quite a understated figure. He isn't
Mm.
somebody who gets really emotional, emotive. But it'd just be interesting to see what goes on there. It'd be interesting to see how he sets the side up as well. And no doubt Ahmad and Mbemo will go straight back into the squad and should go in with a certain amount of bounce, really, from the African Cup of Nations.
I think there was talk that they might not play because of travelling, I assume, and things like that. Can I be honest? I think you've got to
That's
just chuck them. You've got to chuck
rubbish.
them in. You've got to
Rubbish.
chuck them in.
You do, you
It,
do. Well, here, look, we might need to do an emergency pod next week, depending upon the outcome of the match. But as always, good to see you, Dom.
yeah,
I, I
always a
can't,
pleasure.
I can't say enjoy your Saturday, but I just hope it's a good game, a good spectacle.
We're not. Listen, you don't enjoy derbies. That's the last thing you do. Is enjoy. You only enjoy them if you're 3 or 4 nil up. Um,
True, true.
I mean, honestly, that's not what this is. But Let battle commence. So let's see what happens.
That will commence, and let football be the winner, Dom.
Oh, in that case, we're going to win.
Right. Right, good to see you. Have a great weekend, and thanks
Take
for your
care.
time. Take care.
Anytime. Bye.
Bye.